Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Jinger Duggar Vuolo, who has a moving new book out today called Becoming Free Indeed, My Story of Disentangling Faith from Fear. Jinger takes readers through the evolution of her faith from her very public childhood on the family's reality show, 19 Kids and Counting, to her new life today. But in 2015, Josh and the Duggar family made headlines when Jinger's parents, Jim Bob and Michelle, gave an interview to Fox News confirming reports that Josh had allegedly molested 4 of his sisters and a babysitter 12 years earlier. That was from 2002 to 2003, when he was a teenager. No criminal charges were filed against Josh Duggar, and the family said they handled the alleged sexual abuse privately. Jinger, in both of her books, have shared how over the years she's processed this in the family secret. Jinger, I know in your prior book you talked about the book was The Hope We Hold, Finding Peace in the Promise of God. And you talked about what was happening in the family. And even now with Josh, at one point you wrote, intimate details about our lives were splashed across a magazine page and all over the internet for anyone and everyone to read. I felt shell-shocked as if a bomb had exploded. People always wonder how these secrets stay secret, especially within the home. How do you describe what you knew or heard? Not that you are responsible for anything, and so I am not asking you to be accountable for anyone's actions. What was it like at that time? Were you surprised? Did you have an idea? What was it?
You know, I think in that setting, it is tough to talk about initially. I'll just say that on the front end. It's very tough to talk about. But I think in that time, you don't really think through everything. You kind of just push through whatever is there and move forward. And so that's what I did in that time. And I think looking back, you just see the amount of things that I was walking through. It's so hard to know how to navigate that. And when you're in such a public space, you don't want to talk about all of that. It's not fun to talk about. It's difficult. And so part of it was, you need to move past it. Like it's hard to process.
It's hard, and I understand because, the first allegations come, it seems as if the family tried to move past it, right? Then Josh Duggar is charged with the child pornography, and then he is sentenced and he is in jail. So every time you try to move on, there was another, as you described it, bomb exploding.
Yes.
You talk about praying for him. And it's interesting because the book is about faith and fear, but you pray for him now. What is your prayer? Do you see him as your brother?
It's really tough. I think that walking through such difficulties time and time again, I think for me, whenever I walked through that, it's something that I would look at and say, okay, first off, my heart just breaks for the victims and their families. And that's who I pray for even first. And my prayer for my brother would be that he would have true transformation and change that can only happen from the inside out. And I think part of this story I'm telling is you can't put up all of these outward standards and rules and say that's going to do anything. It's not. Your heart has to be changed from the inside out, and only Jesus can truly change that. And that's not something I saw in my brother. He's not truly changed, and so until God does that, it's only work God can do.
You said you've not seen a true change in your brother.
I would leave that, up to whatever journey he's on right now. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him.
In years, right?
I haven't spoken to him in years. So I just would pray that he would be truly broken over what he's done. But I just pray for the victims and their families.
And your parents at this point, I know it's also difficult to talk about them because they are your parents and you do love your parents. How do you describe the relationship today, especially with the book coming out today?
Yeah. I've sought to have conversations with my parents throughout the years of the differences I've gone through and the changes I've made. And I think that at the end of the day, I know they are still in those teachings and they still hold to Bill Gothard's teachings as important. And so I hope that with this book, it is my goal in writing it just to be able to tell my own story. And hopefully it will help anyone who is still in that system to see how damaging and how harmful it truly is. And I love my parents, and I see how...
What do you think they're thinking right now? You're on
Yeah.
live TV, the book is out.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say what everyone's reactions are going to be to it. I just hope that they would see my genuine heart wanting to help people come out of this, because I think until you're able to examine it according to the Bible and see, this is not Bible teaching. This guy claimed it was Bible teaching. It's not. It's harmful, damaging, fear-based manipulation and control. And so he needs Bill Gothard's teachings. They need to be exposed. The teachings need to be exposed for what they are, as damaging. And I would hope that anyone in that system can hear through this book, when I tell the stories, when I'm more vulnerable and raw than I've ever been, that they need to come out of this as well and to have a balanced view of who God really is.